I'm going to start by handing it over to Dr. Criscione for student recognition.
Thank you, Mr. Stout. So we have a wonderful accomplishment that we would like to recognize. We have a special student here with us in our audience who had quite an amazing weekend. So I'm going to ask Mr. Ray to please join us at the microphone. And you're going to say something, Mr. Ray?
One of the greatest wrestlers in county and the state history. So a little about Braden before I ask Mr. Stroker to come up and speak about the Eastern States. Braden is a three-time county champion. He won the states, took second in the states, took third in the states. And this year he's going back to repeat for hopefully another state championship. He is undefeated the last 2 seasons. He's got a scholarship to Appalachian State. And the greatest thing about him is he's just so humble. And I'm really proud of him. In my 24 years here, he's probably one of the most accomplished athletes that we have. And one thing that I did find out the other day, which was mesmerizing to me, is that no one until last week scored a point against him. That's insane as a wrestler. And you should be really proud of yourself. So with further ado, I'd like Mr. Stroker to come up and just speak about the Eastern States.
Yeah, man, I'm sure I'm prepared some of this, and I'm just going to read this off, but before I do that, I just want to say how incredibly proud I am of Braden. He's what you call, a serious senior, the kid that comes out is a great example to the younger kids. He's great to them. He's like a mentor to them. But he had mentors where he was going through, kids like Matt Campbell, who's a state champ, and just to see him be the type of person he is now is just, I get great pride in that, so I'm very pleased with that. So, this past weekend, Braden wrestled the Eastern States Wrestling Tournament. This tournament is one of the biggest and toughest tournaments you can compete in, a high school wrestler in the entire country. To qualify, he must have placed in prior year's county tournament, so this tournament is filled with very experienced and talented wrestlers. The tournament boasts having 25 state champions from various states and had over 50 state finalists participating in this prestigious event. It is truly a springboard to the state finals. Mount Sinai has entered many into this tournament years before. That includes 3 other state champs, and have never had anyone place. By the way, it places up to 8th place, so there's a lot of opportunity. So that's how hard it is. Last year, Braden won this tournament. This past Saturday, he repeated and did it again. Place in the tournament is very impressive. To win is almost unheard of. To win it twice is truly something that will probably never be accomplished again. Braden is arguably one of the best wrestlers to ever come out of not just Mount Sinai, but Suffolk County wrestling as well. Congratulations to Braden Farback, and let's bring home the gold again.
So I just want to read this. The Mount Sinai Board of Education and Administration wishes to extend their congratulations to Braden Farback for winning the Wrestling Eastern State Championship. Congratulations.
The thing I wanted to go over with the board is we have a lot of great accomplishments, a lot of amazing seniors in our district. And I just wanted to give you an update on our class of 2024 and some of the college acceptances we've seen so far, some of the many colleges that we've gotten acceptances from. So our class, I just wanted to give you an update on the application status. So far, of all of our 157 students have applied to colleges. There were 1,479 actual applications to different schools. Total of 298 schools were applied to for our senior class. So far, there have been 268 acceptances from those colleges. We've had 41 deferred status. We've had 16 denials. 4 students have withdrawn, and we have 12 that I've identified where they're going to attend. So right now, the colleges that students have identified they're going to attend, we have Appalachian University, Auburn University, Florida Institute of Technology, High Point University, where we have 2 students going, University of Albany, SUNY, St. Elizabeth University, Stetson University, Suffolk Community College for 3 students, and Westminster College. This is a pretty cool slide. These are all the colleges that we've gotten acceptances to. so I squeezed them all onto one slide. They're hard to see, but really impressive list so far. A lot of our students haven't made their final decision yet. They still have time. We're still getting acceptances rolling in, but it's just an opportunity to show you just the amazing things our students are doing. And of course, as we get other information, such as students who are going into the military, students who are going into trade schools, we'll be sharing that information later on in the year with our board as well. Does the board have any questions on our college information?
Can you go back to the slide that showed the numbers? So, I mean, I think that's a phenomenal statistic that only 16 denials came through, and that says a lot about the district and what we've done with these students, and more so what they've done for themselves. So that's great to see.
One of the things I know the board was questioning or talking about a month ago, a month and a half ago, there was some information through Newsday on News 12 about this commission that was formed, and I had asked Dr. Timo if she could just give us a brief update on the Blue Ribbon Commission and graduation measures. So, Dr. Timo?
That was a good step. See all the colleges our kids are going. The recommendations of the Blue Ribbon Commission on Graduation Measures was given to the Board of Regents in the New York State Education Department in November of 2023. But just to back up a little bit so that you understand where the recommendations are coming from, the Blue Ribbon Commission was actually started to form in 2019-2020 when the Board of Regents decided that they needed to look at the graduation requirements and maybe updates and things based on some movement that was going on in the state. So the commission was actually composed of people from all over New York State, stakeholders such as students, parents. There are 109 committee members on the commission. Students, parents, teachers, administrators from private schools, public schools, charter schools, people from the workforce, work-based organizations, people from social service organizations, community-based organizations such as PTAs throughout the state. Long Island was represented. Each area has about 8 to 10 representatives, so that the entire state, all the different catchment areas would be represented. And the commission was put on hold because of COVID, as everything was. So in 2021 and 2022, they reformed, and they got together, and their first task, the first phase of reforming, was to really look at what was existing in the literature regarding what was needed for graduation requirements, the current requirements that are in our procedures and policies in New York State. Then they looked at feedback from parents and students. They had various meetings throughout the state to get input from additional stakeholders. And then they took those things and they identified the 4 priority areas that they wanted to target in the beginning. So they're looking at, right now we have 3 different high school diplomas in New York State. They're looking at unifying them into 1 New York State high school diploma. However, there will still be the opportunity to have a diploma with advanced standing, a regent's diploma, a diploma with honors, but they're doing it in multiple pathways in seals or endorsements that will be placed on each diploma. Much like we have now, there's a concentration for mathematics, there's a concentration for sciences, there's a concentration for CTE credits, there's a seal by literacy. So they're going to keep all of those things and they're actually going to broaden those. They want a little assessment flexibility since COVID and the redoing of Regents exams and exempting some Regents exams. They're looking at making assessments more flexible, and I'll get into that a little bit later with project-based assessment in addition to Regents. They are not planning on doing away with Regents, they're planning on adding to the assessments needed for graduation. Meaningful life-ready credentials is what they would like to focus on. And culturally responsive curriculum, instruction, and assessment, what that basically means is student-centered, so that all students of all different needs are met with one diploma requirement. And when the commission finished that work, they made 12 recommendations to the board of regents in the 11 meetings. I'll try and go through quickly the 12 recommendations because, again, I just want to stress still to replace a few diploma types with diploma option to add seals and endorsements as students earn different areas of interest. The number 2 is credit requirements. They're looking to move away. Right now, as you know, students need to get credits in math, science, social studies, English. They're looking to include broader categories such as civic responsibility, cultural competence, financial literacy. That's one that they're really highlighting. They would like kids to leave high school understanding financial issues. Fine and performing arts, STEM, and writing. But when they're talking about writing in this sense, they're looking at writing for skills in real-world scenarios in the workforce. So that's why it's important to get feedback from work-based organizations as well. The third thing is to ensure access to career and technical education for those students who prefer that pathway. So that would be an additional pathway. Move to a model that organizes credit requirements into larger categories. Like I'm saying, it won't just be ELA and social studies, it'll be a broader humanities range. It won't just be math and science and arts, it will be STEAM or STEM. They're looking to move to a model that organizes, I'm sorry, I talked about that already, allow more assessment options, like I said. The regions will continue to remain there as an option for those students who choose them. There will be an option for project-based learning activities, and that's going to require probably a little bit more time for them to develop because certain things have to come. They have to decide what project-based assessments for what areas will be appropriate, and then they need to create a state-developed rubric or a series of rubrics for any performance-based assessment that's allowed as an option for graduation requirements. That's what's probably going to take a lot of time because that'll require a lot of data and a lot of analyzing data. They'd like to tailor graduation requirements to address unique circumstances of certain groups of students. Those students who wish to remain in school beyond the compulsory age to obtain their high school diploma. Any newcomer students, we have some students on Long Island in particular that are coming in with a lack of formal education in the background. So opening something up for those students as well is what they're looking to do. Provide exemptions from diploma assessment requirements for students with significant cognitive disabilities, but they're broadening that because at this point we do have some safety nets in place for those students. They're looking to broaden it to also students who in their later high school years are impacted by any major life events or extenuating circumstances. I was at a conference and we were questioning what those circumstances might be because it's still very vague right now. But things like the death of a parent while they're going through their assessments, or becoming homeless as a result of their parents leaving a business or a job. So those kinds of extenuating circumstances are going to be things that we can have a little bit more leeway in working with that student. Pursue regulatory changes to allow the discretion to confer high school degrees posthumously. Right now in the law that's not allowed, so they will need to change that. Require all New York State teacher prep programs to provide instruction in culturally responsive education. That means student-centered education, and they would need to enlist the assistance with colleges and universities to have those programs. Require the professional development plans in districts to include those elements as well. And then an overall review and revise New York State learning standards dependent on what they choose to focus on in another recommendation. There are only recommendations, and I keep stressing recommendations. We don't know what the Board of Regents, now that it's been presented with these changes, we don't know what they're going to pick and choose. Some of these things that we talked about might go through, some might look very different once they decide what they're going to do. But November of 2023 through the spring, and actually now I'm hearing the summer of 2024, will be the time that the Board of Regents is going to review the recommendations. So we're kind of in phase 3 right now, we're in the middle of phase 3. They'll determine priorities, and then they will work with the New York State Education Department to implement those things. So right now, it's kind of a wait and see. We have to wait and see what the Board of Regents decides on, and what New York State will provide us with guidance once the changes have been implemented. Questions about the commission or recommendations that we make?
Thank you, that was excellent.
Our evening, we are going to do the first in our series of budget workshops. For this evening, we're going to have an overview and talk about the BOE and central administration budgets, insurance, central printing, BOCES administrative charges, transportation, debt service, and benefits. So tonight's presentation is about 32% of the total budget. If you look at that, it's those different sections that are popped out, which includes those areas I mentioned before. Over the next few weeks, we will cover the other sections of that budget that make up the rest of the pie. So what exactly are we talking about when we say BOE and central administration? Well, we're looking at the budget, which provides necessary funding to operate many of our legal and mandated requirements for the district, such as auditing, our annual vote, public notices, taxpayer notifications. All of these things are things we do in this district office that have to be sent out and paid for out of our budget. The proposed budget provides funding to run the business operations of our district. So really, my office, the business office, as well as various departments within the business office. So what are the areas we're looking at? And I have to thank Mark for fixing this for me because it was not fitting in completely, so he got it in there. First of all, one of the things we have a breakdown for the Board of Education. The Board of Education has to pay for dues to be part of New York State school boards. The other thing we've been discussing is, do we want to add in some different pieces like a policy manual reorganization company to come in and help us with our policy manual? Do we want to consider board docs? We've put in some extra money into that code so that we could look at the possibility of adding one of those programs in. That's under discussion by the board right now. For district clerk, that's for any supplies that are needed for that office. District meetings when we need to vote, additional voting and translation services, conference dues. We've had a little bit of an increase because we go to more conferences for some of the new things that have come out from the state. Business administrator includes things like that are covered by the business office, such as conferences, whether there's mileage that has to be used. It's for the entire office. Our auditing services, including our actuary, so it's our external and internal auditors and our actuary. For our treasurer, those are supply costs. For purchasing, that also includes not only our Ed Data cooperative bidding, but also printing, purchasing orders, and things of that nature. Our TAN SEC filing, we're required to do that, and it's based on how much TAN we borrow. We have our legal fees, we've kept the same. Our personnel, which is OLAS and ads. It also includes, it's a set fee from BOCES. In the past, we had had a lower cost for our OLAS, so you'll see a lower amount listed for 22-23. We had under budgeted at that point, so the cost was actually significantly higher. So we haven't really had a big increase for the coming year, but we're just catching up with what it should be. So I just wanted to point that one out. And public information services and postage, that includes all the postage for the district and the machine that we have in district office and doing that. So that's that first section. I don't know if the board has any questions on that piece. No? The next section, which is special items like central printing, insurance, and BOCES administrative charges. So central printing provides funding for the leasing of all the copiers in the entire district. The insurance budget is for insurance coverage for the entire district, including liability, umbrella, auto, student accident, error and omissions, and additional cyber insurance that we're required to have. So our estimated increase is 15% plus contingency. The BOCES administrative budget is for our district share of the administration and facility charges for BOCES. That's a set amount. We are estimating, because we don't have the exact amount right now, the estimated increase of approximately 2%. So the next slide will show the different costs. So our printing costs, you can see we kind of held the line. Basically what we're spending is what we're proposing. Our insurance, I just wanted to point out that in the 23-24 school year, we had a 26% increase in our insurance. We are building in a 15% for next year. They've advised us that our rates are going to go up again. They didn't tell us exactly how much, but we're putting in for 15% right now. And our BOCES admin, there's a 5% increase that we're anticipating that we built into the budget as well. So you see those are the changes there for an increase of about $90,000. Transportation, there's a couple of pieces with transportation I want to just make sure we all understand. We have a contract with our transportation company, which is First Student. And that contract calls for certain increases every single year. So our increase for the coming school year is 5.38% for any busing that we have, that we're contracting for through First Student. So no matter, if we kept all the same number of buses, we would be going up to 5.38%, and that's what we would build into the budget. The problem is that it isn't just that increase, but our busing needs have increased for the year, and we also have to account for anything that might pop up for next year, because we saw that happen this year. We ended up with a student that needed to go to a special school that we didn't budget for, or we found more students going to private schools that weren't initially in our catchment area. Or, we ended up having just one of the issues we had this year. We had some of our BOCES students couldn't fit. We normally have 2 buses for BOCES, but we had to add a 3rd bus because they couldn't fit into we had like 2 kids on one bus going to one school and a bunch on another bus. And so we had to split that 2nd bus. So those add into our transportation costs in addition to that standard raise every year through the company. So that first line, I just wanted to point out what that is. So something very interesting, I know we've all heard about that program with the bus arm and the tickets and the money that's generated, and people are very upset about that. But part of that law is that some of that money has to go back to school districts, and it has to be spent in very specific ways. So we can only purchase certain things, and we have to put money in our budget in order to spend it, but that money comes back as revenue. So that first line is actually money that we will at some point get reimbursed for. So we put that in, that's how much we can get back eventually. So I just wanted to explain that to the board. We do purchase materials that are specific to that grant. Overall, if you look, our regular transportation line and our field athletic transportation line are sticking to the 5.38%. Our occupational education transportation, which is BOCES, that's where we had to increase more than that 5.38% because we have more needs with our CTE program. So it's not just about paying BOCES extra for the actual students, which we would have to do, but it's also having to transport them. We have our out-of-district special ed. We end up with more buses, students to different schools that we hadn't had before. We anticipated, we budgeted for 11 schools last year, 11.5 schools, and we actually have 14.5 schools that our students are going to. So that adds some busing that we didn't anticipate. So that number is a little bit higher than the 5.38%. Non-public transportation, also we had under budgeted in the past. And so we're adjusting it and increasing it. We are now up to 9 schools that students are going to this year out of district, for non-public schools, I mean. In-district special needs, so some students need a specialized bus for their programs, and so that's the number that explains that. That's gone down a little bit from what we had budgeted last year. We're going to hold that close to just a little increase. Non-public school, we're required to provide a non-public school late bus, and so we just put the regular increase in there. And we have a contingency, because if what happened this year happens next year, we may need money for another bus. And a bus for one, if we have a special needs bus that needs to start running, it's going to cost us between $85,000 and $90,000. So that's why there's a $100,000 contingency in there. And lastly, the BOCES, we put $25,000 in there, just in case we end up with some additional students at BOCES. So I didn't know if there were any questions on that transportation budget. Okay. Our next section is the debt service, TANs, and installation purchase debt. This is a section you're going to like. All of our bond payments, why are we going to like it? All district bond payments are included in this. Our tax anticipation notes are estimated at 6%. And the financial condition of the district reflects lower rates for borrowing. So because we have such a good financial, we're very good financially, we get better rates than other districts. So you'll notice there's a nice drop in our debt service. At the end of this year, we were going to be paying off one of our bonds. So that's why there's a big drop between our budgeted, our anticipated for this year, and proposed for next year. Sorry. Along with that actual principal, we have one last debt service from a bond, which is the middle school roof, and that will end in the 29-30 school year. The service interest, debt service interest, that goes along with the bond, and obviously that is dropping as well since we're going to be removing that debt from our rolls. The TAN interest, which we estimate at 6%, we are putting in $720,000 for that for next year. The subscription, that's cybersecurity that we have in, so that's really important with everything going on, so that's our subscription for that. Installment debt for the second year of an SUV lease. and the energy performance contract, which ends in the 26-27 school year. So there we have a reduction of $548,000. Now this section, we normally do it a little bit later, but we switched a couple around. I'm not going to tell you which department, but he might be sitting in the back of this room. We switched, he was supposed to go in March. He's supposed to go now. But we're doing this. So these numbers are not firm yet, but we wanted to give the board a sense of what our employee benefits numbers are. So a lot of these are projections. First, we have the employee retirement system, projections from the state. What I want to point out with that and the teacher's retirement system is that these are based on people's actual salaries. And so there's a percentage increase from the state. And on top of that, it's based on people's salaries. So it's not like a set amount that we can say it's this. We don't know for sure which staff we would have to pay the benefits for, because we could have retirements by the end of June. We could have to hire a lot more lower paid teachers. So you just don't know what's going to happen. So for now, we're proposing these numbers for a increase. Right now, the teachers' retirement system, last year, it was a 9.76% increase of the rate that we have to pay. This year, it's an additional 10.25% for this coming school year on that. So between the 10% and the cost of people's salaries, because it's based on their salaries, that's why the cost is so much more than the standard percentage. So I wanted to explain that. Social Security, Medicare, that's staying the same. Our health, dental, life, and disability. So that becomes tricky with night shift because they're on a January through December cycle. We're on a July through June cycle for our budget. So what happens is we end up estimating half of the year because we don't know what their numbers are going to be, and we're able to pay for half. So we have to kind of budget in some increases for the following 6 months because we don't know exactly when their numbers are going to come out for part of the year. So for now, we've put in an increase with a little bit of a contingency so that we can be covered if there's a big increase between July and next December, let's say, of that year. Workers' comp, basically staying the same, unemployment insurance staying the same, and our Omni service that we provide in the Affordable Care Act, we're keeping the same. Are there any questions on employee benefits? No? So the summary for all of the 32% of our budget, for all those different breakdowns, for this section, we're looking at an increase of $898,445. So that's so far. For next month, we're going to be talking about pupil personnel services, building principals, instructional adult ed, and driver's ed. Okay. And the last thing I want to mention are upcoming events. We have our junior Tri-M induction at the middle school next week on the 18th. Regents exams at the high school will be the week of the 23rd through the 26th. We have our high school ensemble concert on the 27th. The PTO is doing 2 awesome things, the Sweetheart Dance on February 9th and the PTO Glow Run on February 16th, both Friday evenings. And our midwinter recess is the 19th to the 23rd. Our next board meeting is not until after that, the week after that. And that is my report.
Thank you very much. We carry on with the rest of the business. Nick, if you would, approval of minutes.
Approval of minutes resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent of the Board of Education hereby accepts the minutes of the December 20th, 2023 regular meeting as submitted.
Thank you. Could I have a second? Second. Thank you, Chuck. All in favor? Approved. Great, thank you. Anthony, if you would, tenure appointment?
Tenure appointment, speech language pathologist, Erin Iardi. Resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent, the Board of Education hereby grants tenure as follows.
Thank you. Can I have a second? Second. Thank you, Christy. Sure. All in favor? Great.
I know Erin's not here, but I just wanted to say she's been doing an amazing job as a speech pathologist, and we're very happy to have her and have her have tenure this evening. So congratulations to Erin.
Thank you. Karen, personnel?
Personnel, resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent, the Board of Education hereby approves personnel items 1 through 6 as listed.
Thank you. Can I have a second? Second. Thank you, Anthony. All in favor? Chuck, action items.
Okay. Number 2, aides. Upon the recommendation of the superintendent, the Board of Education hereby approves the following appointments as listed.
Thank you. Can I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Nick. All in favor? Christie, number 8. I see. Action items.
Action items, motion resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent, the Board of Education hereby approves action items 1 through 3 as listed.
Can I have a second? Second. Karen? All in favor? And we are up to Eris.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Russ Farrell, and I'd like to update you on this past month's happenings. In the elementary school, the student council had a very busy month. The annual toy drive was conducted, and 2 large pallets of toys were collected and donated to the town of Brookhaven. Several boxes of hats, gloves, and scarves were collected and distributed to those in need within our community under the Tree of Warmth program as well. The Student Council is also working very diligently to have a successful Smensel sale, which begins on January 22nd. Proceeds will all be donated to the Williams Fund and Ronald McDonald House. The Pennies for Patients campaign is underway as well. The students are collecting loose change from their classmates to donate to the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. In the middle school, in December, a reporter from Newsday paid a visit to Mr. Murray's 5th grade class during their Advancing Literacy Journalism writing unit. She spoke about the importance of reading and writing in her career as a journalist, bringing the unit to life for all of his students. In the high school, the National Honor Society took a trip to New York City on December 22nd. The students began in Rockefeller Center, exploring the various stores in the area before ice skating in the iconic venue. They went to Bryant Park, walking around the Winter Village, and the trip was wrapped up with a meal at the Hard Rock Cafe, a well-deserved break for exemplary students. On January 9th, the Virtual Enterprise International members of the school went to the trade show competition at Long Island University. The VEI looks to model real-world business experience, having students create and register a company and manage its various components, such as branding, profits, economic influences, and competitors. The competition was a showcase of a business plan our team created for their business Dreamscape, a sleep accessory company specializing in massaging mattresses, supplements, and more. Mount Sinai ended up winning silver for booth design, with other competition results pending. On January 12th, the high school arts classes visited the Metropolitan Museum of Art. Students freely roamed the various exhibits, studying the works of the greats and learning their techniques and inspirations. And finally, in the first week of January, students were selected to participate in the Long Island String Festival Association, or LISFA, a 3-day event for the top string players across Long Island to rehearse and perform an exciting repertoire. This year, the festival was held at Hapog High School, with many students from our 9th to 12th grade classes in attendance putting on an excellent concert. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Eric. Do we have any questions, concerns, comments? Yes?
Hello, everyone. My name is Fatima Chowdhury. I'm one of 3 kids
Yeah, for this year, obviously, we can't do anything about it.
Yeah, I completely understand.
So for this year,
Yeah.
we've spoken with Dr. Crescione and said that, we'd like the teachers to go out of their way to not have any testing on that day.
Yeah.
Or any major assignments or anything for the.
Okay, but we want you to consider for your
Absolutely.
process.
Yeah, as we get closer to developing the calendar for the next year, that's when we're gonna make the final
Yeah.
decision.
And recently, I think, I'm sure you all heard that Diwali and Chinese New Year is approved on the state level. So now it's just 2 weeks that are left behind. And we all really appreciate if you guys just consider it.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Thank you for the information. Anybody else? Brad Woodby, the monthly meetings option.
So I have questions on 5 areas.
Oh, we told you, limited to 2, Brad.
But where's the transparency? So first on the special education busing. I was surprised that went up since we brought a lot of the special ed students back in district from Fort Jeff. I would have expected a decrease in busing from that action alone.
Are you talking about the in-district special needs or the out-of-district special?
For the
Okay, so
transportation.
there's two separate lines for transportation, so I just want to know which one you're.
Yeah, so I think it was the out-of-district
Okay.
transportation budget that went up.
Right.
So I would have thought that with bringing the special ed students back into the district, that would have reduced our transportation costs there.
Right, and it did increase our in-district transportation for special needs students, but went down for that. However, we have had students moving into the district, students that now need to go to BOE. So we anticipated it would be 11 schools they would attend. Now we have 14 different schools, special needs schools that students are coming to. So that's why the plan.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then for also budget related, you guys probably saw that the governor's draft budget said that there's going to be 34 sub-county districts that are going to be cut, including us. Do we have kind of a plan yet? If we have a big hit, kind of what does that do to the calculus and the tax rate and those kinds of things?
Well, we're definitely, everything is modified and qualified, saying, depending on what comes from the state. And these are conversations we're having, what would be plant-based. So we kind of have to have multiple plans. If this happens, it's got to be this. We won't know for a couple of months once they hammer it all out, but we definitely we're sitting down with our pencils and trying to figure out how to make that work if we have to.
Is there something that the community can do to say, don't cut us, we're a small district, we don't have a big
Understood.
taxes?
So there's a few things going on right now. There are a lot of different advocacy groups out right now that the board is participating in with me, and that's targeted for them to go to. So we're going to some legislative events to work with our local politicians, hear from different state officials, some different groups out there to give us some information on how to advocate. And I think it's going to be really important as a district that we either lock arms with other districts around us and have a cohesive message going out to Albany, whether it's writing letters, having a sort of private advocacy. We're looking at different things that we can script and really try to get the message out there so that we can all kind of band together about it.
Yeah, that would be helpful, some sort of script or something, because looking at that list, it seemed like there were a lot of small districts getting cut. A few larger ones, but a lot of small.
There were a lot of small districts that took, we were talking about this before, significant impacts percentage-wise.
Yeah.
While their foundation aid may have been less than ours, they took a larger percentage hit of it. In some cases, 40%, 45%. For those small districts, it's going to be a pretty significant impact. Whether or not this makes it through the assembly and the state,
Sure.
we don't know. We certainly hope not. It is a lot of districts, and with that said, even just around us, there are districts that benefit from it. We have neighboring districts that either stayed the same or went up in this. So they're probably not going to be fighting too hard to make sure it doesn't get passed. But, rest assured that, if it were to be enacted and we lose roughly about $1.3 million in state aid, we have the means to make that up for now, but it's
Smart.
And also, he had a lot of his cool triathlon medals and things that got damaged. Is there any way that we can help him? I don't know if any of those are replaceable or not, but those are kind of cool for the kids to see, and it's a shame that those got damaged.
Right. So unfortunately, one of our youth events broke over the Christmas vacation, and it happened on Christmas Eve, and so nobody was in the building on Christmas Day, which was Monday, and it wasn't discovered until Tuesday. So there was not only, it was steam, so that affected the ceilings and the sides, but also there was then water all over the floor. So yes, that room had quite a bit of damage. We have since fixed the floor. There's been a tremendous amount of work done in that room, so we're pretty close to getting them.
New lighting, new floor, painted, new blinds, the unit vent's been fixed. Mr. McHugh, I personally scraped off almost 3/4 of the tags that you're talking about. Yeah. He has a lot. You know, it is traumatizing. He felt what a lot of people unfortunately felt over the last few weeks and months, and dating back to, like, we talk about coastal flooding and what people endured. He felt the wrath of that. So we quickly had the ability to move the classroom into another classroom. So we're going to have to sacrifice instruction, and I'm hoping to have it moved back by probably, with the help of the custodians, by next week.
Okay, great. My fourth question or comment was for the Blue Ribbon Commission recommendations. There's a lot of stuff in there, and it kind of reminds me of a couple years ago with Common Core, and the state completely bungled that rollout. Whether the content was right or not, the rollout was terrible. What kind of confidence do we have as a district that the state has learned some lessons and they're not going to repeat that complete disaster?
Well, you know, that's a great question. I think that's an incredible question because obviously we have some bad history with the state in the past. I have to say, I'm going to go back to August when I got to meet the commissioner, which was great, and we got to listen to her. This is something they've been thoughtfully planning out and taking their time with. I think that's the big piece. They've been involving stakeholders in this. So this hasn't been the state education department saying, this is what we're doing. And that's really how Common Core rolled out. They called all the administrators up there and basically said, okay guys, here it is. Go do it in your districts, which was a terrible way to roll something out. This has been well over a years, that she's involved stakeholders across the state to get the input. They've surveyed the community. They had pieces out there for everybody to give their feedback. So I think the commissioner and the state ed department is being very thoughtful about that. Those recommendations are not from the state ed department. Those are from that commission that reported to the region. So now the state ed department has to take those recommendations and figure out what they have to do to kind of tie that into any changes they want to make as far as graduation requirements, you know, this assessments and things like that. So I think we'll see a better rollout. Will everybody love what happens? Probably not, but I think it's going to be better than what Common Core was in the past.
I think too, so speaking as an educator, so seeing the multiple forms of assessment they would offer is definitely better for a student. So project-based learning, although very tricky to implement, if that would be offered to somebody versus Regents or some other type of assessment, that's what you really want to see. You want to see the kids involved in something that's hands-on, that came from a question they had, where they were problem solving, versus sitting down to take a test that maybe wouldn't suit them to their needs or what they really know about the program. So some of those things in there, I thought the recommendations were really sound. Hopefully they follow through the way they sound. But also speaking to the fact that there were stakeholders and different people involved. Years ago when they did the state assessments, the ELA, the math, I know nobody likes them, but I was part of, there's like 8 or 10 of us that were chosen from the island to go sit on the committee and make sure the tests were aligned correctly to the standards and make sure that all the teachers were heard. But they would come into the room and they would ask us, what about these questions? Can 3rd and 4th graders answer? What can they not answer? What can we do to make this more friendly for the students taking this test? That obviously had to do with opt-out rates, but they really were taking a different position and wanting to hear from the teachers in the classroom. So there were a few of us from each area of the state sitting in the room for 3 or 4 days really working on these assessments to make them aligned correctly more versus somebody just saying, like you said, Dr. Cristione, is that here, come do this with your district. It was really listening to the teachers that were in the classroom at the time. It was kind of an amazing process to see. If you don't know that they do that, it was unbelievable. It was just teachers that are in the classroom every day giving their opinion and saying what kids need. And it sounds a lot like what Dr. Timo presented. So I'm hopeful that if some of these things happen, they're good things.
that's really what the High School Principals Association has been advocating for, because you do have districts that have different learners, including our own, that they just want to be able to give kids options instead of saying, you need to pass this test. They don't want to keep giving the safety net to you. They want to make the regions count. They want to make the regions matter, but they also want to give kids options. And that's a good thing for me, you know, as a building principal, to be able to have kids who, like Dr. Timo said, if there's a newcomer student, or if there's someone struggling with test taking, that they have options. And that's really what we're hearing coming out of the state. The other thing that, not to go back in time, because that was probably the worst years of my educational career, was they tied APPR to that. So the floor rolled out, plus the APPR, just that was doomed from the beginning.
Yeah, that was a debacle, that really just put everybody, you know, pitted people against each
And I
other.
think they learned a lesson to kind of say, again, these are options to be able to provide kids.
Yes, so I think if you're being given options to show what you know about a topic, or to show what you know versus sitting down to take a test is incredible. Project-based learning is, if you haven't really looked it up or looked into it, it's, when it's done correctly and done with the students bringing the questions to the table, it's really a wonderful thing. So to see them out there is exciting.
Good, that gives me some hope.
Total opposite of having more project-based learning, so it's good.
And then my last question, I'm going to put on my civic president hat for a moment. The civic is working with Brookhaven Lab to do an education session at one of our meetings. We have a range of topics we can choose from. Some of them, I mean, they're all kind of nerdy and sciencey, but that's kind of cool about it. So the civic would like to try to work with the school district to get that information out to as many people as would like to attend at one of our meetings. So perhaps we can work together to promote that and drive some folks over and learn about some of the science.
Yeah, that's awesome, thank you.
Make sure for the information to us.
Yeah.
Yeah, we just have to, they offered us like 6 or 7 different topics. We're going to look at them and see what might work well for the community. We just want to reach out to you guys.
That's awesome.
Anything else from you?
Dr. Crescione, I would just like to say it only took 13 years of me being here to be able to see the budget presentation. So nicely done. We can see it. It looked great.